Alright, so we got Yoshi and the Mysterious Book coming out this month. And since Walmart had the deal to sell this game for the same price as the digital version, because whatever stupid reason we're doing this weird price disparity, despite the fact this game is definitely not worth $70. And that's pretty much also the reason why I pre-ordered Raiders and the Star Fox remake. So I was able to get this game and play through it pretty close to launch. I didn't do it right away, but I just finished it, so I thought I'd do a list of these games while it's still fresh in my mind. And I'd played through a good chunk of these other games, like within the last few years. Well, replayed a good chunk of these games in the last few years. So, we all know how Yoshi came to be. And the first major thing he was in was Super Mario World. And I don't care what people like Scott the Woz say. I will always say that's the best 2D Mario game ever. Better than 3. 3 is great, don't get me wrong, but World is still my favorite. But anyways, after that came out, you'd think, Yoshi's Island Super Mario Bros. 2 would be the next game. Nope, we had a couple weird spin-offs he was in first. The first two of which, they went back. I have no idea why they did this. They went back and made a couple of puzzle games for the 8-bit systems, that being the Game Boy and the NES. Like, I kind of get the Game Boy, but the NES? Why? So, both of these games are pretty similar. Just the game called Yoshi and Yoshi's Cookie. They're both platformers. They're both puzzle games, line-clearing Tetris-y style puzzle games, which I will say right out, I am not a fan of, for the most part. I like Pokemon Puzzle League and the games that it was based on, Panel DuPont series, Tetris Attack. And I kind of like Puyo Puyo, though even then I've really only played like one of the more recent ones, as well as the ones that were reskinned to Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine and Kirby's Avalanche. But these games are not that, so they're both similar, but they're not. Because Yoshi's Cookie is kind of more closer to like what you would expect from one of those falling block line clearing games. The one called Yoshi is a bit different, which involves swapping things around more, so it's a bit more interesting than Cookie. And Cookie was just like a boring cash-in, so I'm going to say that's a D tier and a C for Yoshi. And that's honestly all I can say on them, because I've only played these once, and again, I don't like those kind of games, and I have no reason to go back to them. I've honestly never heard anybody say anything particularly great about either of them, so I'm probably not wrong in placing them where I'm at. But the next spin-off was actually on the Super Nintendo. Yoshi's Safari. This was a light gun game made for the Super Scope. I have never used a Super Scope in my life. The only reason I've even been able to play this is because there's a ROM hack that lets you play with a joypad. I've got a playthrough of that somewhere on this channel. I don't know if the site that I got that from is still around, but you just search around for Yoshi Safari joypad hack and you'll find it. Playing it that way is not ideal, but it's doable. So it is kind of hard to rate this one. Playing it in a way that's not really ideal. I would imagine this is a lot more fun playing it with the Super Scope. It is a bit short, but it is a light gun game, so that's expected. You'll get about an hour out of it. The boss fights are kind of interesting, the way they just have the different Koopalings and various mechs. Playing the joypad hack, I'd say it's a C tier, but again, I would imagine playing it the proper way was a lot more fun, so I'm just gonna say it's a B tier. I enjoyed it, but I just found myself wishing that I had able to play this with the Super Scope, but again, I never owned one. Never knew anybody that owned one. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever seen one in real life. Like, I've seen videos of it and pictures of it, but, like, I ain't ever physically seen one, like, anywhere. If I probably went to, like, a used game shop, I'd probably see one somewhere, but I've never came across one. Okay, now we come to the game that most people are familiar with as the first actual Yoshi game, Yoshi's Island. This is a bit interesting, because as a follow-up, it's called Super Mario World 2, but it is anything but a sequel to that game, other than the fact that it's a Yoshi game. It plays differently. The world map system is very different than Super Mario World. It's got less content in it. Then I'd say most importantly, but most notably, it has Baby Mario in it, which is both the mechanic that makes it unique, but also something that hurts it, because listening to Mario cry every time you get hit is fucking annoying. Of course, it doesn't really help the fact that I don't like babies. Maybe it's because I'm a man and I don't have a kid of my own. But, I just... That fucking kid drives me up the wall. That being said, I do like the game quite a bit. There is a ROM hack for it that will shut him the fuck up, though that could probably make it easier to lose track of him. But I think that's worth the sacrifice. It is kind of interesting that they made a platformer where the game itself is basically a giant escort quest. Though the thing you're escorting is riding on you, so is it? Is it really? I don't know. You tell me what you think about that. But either way, I've never seen, at least at the time, I've never seen another game use the mechanic where getting hit will knock the thing you're carrying off and start a timer down, and that acts as your health. And the default is 10 seconds, and it will slowly recuperate when you're carrying Mario to that level, though you can boost it through pickups to 20 seconds. And those extra seconds can mean life or death in this game, because as soon as it hits 0 and the Mecha Koopas get it, you're fucked. The level design for the most part is pretty good. There are a few stages that are really weirdly labyrinthian. And some of the platforming does get really tight towards the end of the game, which, it's a Mario game, that's to be expected. And this is like a kind of a fresh idea coming right off the heels of Super Mario Brothers, so I'm not surprised that the Yoshi's Island, the first one, was a bit more platform heavy, or precision platform heavy, than the ones that followed it. But overall, I would say this is an A tier. One of the big things that I'll say to keep it out of S, apart from crying baby, is the fact that 100%ing it is a nightmare. The way you go about doing it is just irritating, because you have to get through with maximum health, find all the secret coins, and get all the stars. Get a certain amount of stars. It's not... Just unlocking the secret courses is already a nightmare, never mind actually 100%ing the game. But just a normal playthrough, it's quite a bit of fun. At least for me. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it is pretty good. Now, Yoshi's Story. This was one of the few 2D platformers released for the Nintendo 64, which I also find kind of funny, considering Nintendo's bread and butter was 16 and 8-bit days was 2D platformers. Much like Sega as well, but you get the point. And then Sony comes around, and they beat Nintendo to the punch with the PlayStation 1, with the first 3D capable console. Well, not first 3D capable, but first like mainstream 3D capable one. And that system had more 2D platformers on it than the 64 did. I just find that kind of amusing. It's unfortunate that one of them is Yoshi's Story, because this game has a lot of flaws. It does have its charm with its art style, because one thing that does make the Yoshi games unique is because after, Safari, a lot of these games were based around crafts of some sort. because Yoshi's Island was colored pencils. Actually, no, I think it was New Island that was colored pencils, and Yoshi's Island was more like paint, I guess. And DS was kind of the same. And then Yoshi's Story was like knitting, or not knitting, but what's the word? There's a specific style of this crap. Maybe embroidery. I don't know. If it wasn't like midnight, I'd probably might be able to articulate what I'm trying to convey better. But or maybe it was crochet. I don't know. I'm not an art guy, but it was pretty a unique art style for the time. And then, Woolly World was wool crafts, and Crafted World was like more handcrafts. And Mysterious Book is kind of like illustrations you'd see in old books. And then Topsy Turvy was kind of like paper mache-ish, kinda, sorta. Maybe not paper mache, but cardboard cutouts, that kind of stuff. Anyways, getting off that rant about art styles, this one did not feature Baby Mario, and this kind of started the second type of Yoshi game, which was just playing as Yoshi himself, without any sort of carry. And it did use a lot of mechanics apart that didn't involve the baby from Yoshi's Island, such as eating enemies to produce eggs and throwing them. As well as the ground pound. Oh, wait. Yeah. Now I can't remember if the ground pound came in Yoshi's Island first or this, but either way, it was the same mechanic. The two main problems with this game is, number one, it was really short. About 6 stages meant each playthrough is probably going to be an hour and a half, maybe 2 on your first playthrough. Its main way of getting around that and justifying itself was the fact that having replayability, because you have each chapter had 4 different stages in it, but you can only do one at a time, and you had to unlock the others by finding hearts for the next chapter. So the first chapter you could access all 4 courses, but if you didn't find any hearts, the next chapter you'd only be able to access the first course. If you found 3 hearts. If you found 1, then you'd have access to 1 and 2, so on and so forth. So to get those extra courses, you had to look for those hearts, which meant if you didn't know where things were, that means you're probably playing through the game more than 4 times to access every course. And all the courses were pretty unique. Well, most of them were. There were some that were kind of similar to each other, but most of them had unique bits to them that made them worth seeking out, and different themes that you might not see in a different playthrough. So I will give the game that. It definitely does have replayability and variety to it, but again, it's only like an hour long. The other problem is piss easy. You finish the course not by reaching the goal, but by eating a certain amount of fruit. And it does not take you long to find enough fruit to end the level. And oftentimes you have to avoid... You'll get to like needing 5 fruits and just avoid eating anything until you can find all the hearts, because eating fruit's also how you restore health. So if you ate all but 1, then you ran the risk of like dying or running out of health before you found the last heart. So I guess that was a bit of a challenge in rationing yourself to find the extra courses. But beyond that, apart from someone who was like brand new to gaming or a little kid, which I was when I first played this because I rented it when it first came out, it's not going to offer much challenge. As a matter of fact, it seems to be its primary target, because it goes out of its way to patronize or insult the intelligence of anybody whose age was in double digits. Because the presentation is very kiddie, even for Nintendo. And I have to mute my TV every time I finish the level, because the chapter epilogue music is so ear-bleedingly grinding. It's just, what were they thinking? Just listening to the Yoshi sing to that obnoxious tune, it's just like, I would rather listen to Sonic Spinball's ear-bleeding options menu music than that shit. Because at least that one doesn't patronize me. And just the constant thing about the whole story just involving being happy. It's just like, come on, guys. There are people over the age of 10 that play this. So for insulting my intelligence, I'm going to say it's a C tier. It's a fun game, but it's got a lot of flaws. What is not a fun game is Yoshi Topsy-Turvy. This was the Game Boy Advance's game, and probably a lot of people don't even know this existed. I didn't for quite a long time. And this is a gyro game like WarioWare Twisted, so if you do not have the original Game Boy Advance or one of its alternatives to play it on, you ain't playing this without a ROM hack. The only other way to play this without a ROM hack is on a hacked 3DS. Using the MGBA emulator specifically, because if you use the native Virtual Console service hacks, it won't work. MGBA is the only way to do it. So if those two aren't an option, find a ROM hack. I'm sure one exists. There's one for WarioWare Twisted and for the Kirby tilting game for Game Boy. But I don't know why you do so other than just try it, because this game is not good. The presentation is terrible. The music is ear-grating. The story is like, what the hell? Who wrote this? The level design sucks. The only thing that's really notable about it is this mechanic of tilting your Game Boy to like make walls walkable. But doing that makes it so tedious to play because of the controls that it's not fun. Like, creativity is what we need, as Mysterious Book will show, and I will get into that later, but for this game, it just does not work. So despite the fact that it was creative and unique, F tier it goes, because it is an abysmal experience. I never want to play that game again. Now, the first game on the DS, and this is the only other console that had two releases for the Yoshi series on it, unless we count ports. Yoshi's Touch and Go. This should have been a pack-in. I know this didn't come out at the same time as the DS did, but they should have either delayed the launch of the DS or got this out sooner and made this as like a dual game pack-in with the Metroid Prime demo, because there is fuck all to do with this. It is a tech demo. You play the whole game with the stylus, and the game is just a score attack with 3 different levels. And each run will probably last you about 5 minutes. So 20 minutes you've seen all the game has to offer. So unless you're the type that likes score attacks and going for the high score, you're probably tired of this game by after an hour and never want to touch it again. Which would be fine, or maybe touch it like, I don't know, a couple of months from then, just to see if you still got it. I've never gone back to it since, but I also didn't pay full price for this. I only bought this for collection purposes for like $10. I just don't even have that much to say about it. It's such a short game with barely any content. Like, sure, what it does, it's playable. It can be fun in short bursts, but again, if this had been a pack-in or a maybe held off to like the DSi as a DSiWare game, then I would have been kinder to it, or maybe like a $10 eShop game for the 3DS. But it's not. It was, I believe this game launched at full price. Maybe it was a $30 game and I'm remembering wrong, but even if it was discounted, $30 is too much for like something that shouldn't have been higher than 10. D tier. I'd rather play it than Yoshi's Cookie, but that's all I'm going to give it. Now, Yoshi's Island DS, I don't particularly like this game. It is, despite what some people probably thought, it is not a remake or a port of Yoshi's Island 1. It is a sequel to it. Or actually, it's probably a reimagining, because, like, the story feels like a reimagining of the first game, but other than that, it's completely unique. The problem is the level design sucks. Like, if some levels are labyrinthian in Yoshi's Island 1, this one, like, doubles down on that and bases a lot of the castle levels on that. and that's not a good thing. Another bad thing about it is the music sucks ass. This probably has one of the worst soundtracks in the entire Mario franchise. It's like, the only thing I can think of that may have been worse is Yoshi's Topsy-Turvy. And which is a shame because Yoshi's Island 1's soundtrack was actually pretty good. So, the only thing that really makes this game stand out is the fact that, unlike New Island and the original Yoshi's Island, you're not stuck with Baby Mario. There's 6 babies total, although 2 of them are locked behind only being able to use them on certain levels. I think there's like 6 for each of them, that being Wario and Baby Bowser, which is stupid because those are the 2 most useful and the 2 most unique babies. I don't remember what's special about Mario and Luigi, but I remember Donkey Kong can climb vines, and Peach can use her umbrella to slowly descend, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've played this, and I have no desire to do it again. It's just not a good game. Honestly, most of the time, though, just whatever baby you end up going with is just the one that is the least annoying when it cries, which sadly enough is probably Obama Kong over there. But, unless you just play through Yoshi's New Island and Yoshi's Island 1 and really wanted some new content, specifically for Yoshi's Island, there's very little reason to play this game because it's inferior to both of them in every way. C tier. I'd rather play Yoshi's Story. And honestly, I'm just being generous to it. I'd personally put it in D, but it's got at least a little bit of merit to it. Despite the fact that I really don't like it. Yoshi's New Island, this game I feel got unfairly shat on. Like, sure, it's easier than the previous 2, and the giant egg mechanic does kind of make it cheesy at times. And the audio is not particularly great in some areas. Like, the Invincibility music is probably one of the worst versions of it. But you know what? Despite most of the gripes I have with this game are nitpicks. Because at its core, it's a decent sequel to the original. Like, sure, it's not nearly as good as Yoshi's Island 1, but I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty good game. It's a pretty good follow-up to it. I feel like a lot of the shit it got, it was just like the fact that the disappointment that it wasn't as good as the first one, which I have a game to tell you about, Cough Cough DS. If you want to knock a game for not being as good as the first, shit on that one, because at least Yoshi's New Island doesn't have the incredible labyrinthian levels or really annoying mechanics like the stupid pool balls that Yoshi's Island DS did. But I don't know, like, visually it was kind of a bit bland too. Like, I know it was supposed to be colored pencils, but being that on the 3DS with the 3D effects on didn't really mix well, so I don't know. Again, most of my issues with the nitpick, but at the end of the day, it's a fun platformer that was a decent sequel to Island. I'm gonna say it's an A tier below Yoshi's Island 1. I would put it in B, but I don't think it's really fair for it to be compared to Safari or the other games I plan on putting in B. But the next one, Woolly World. Oh boy, was that a game. This game is like an example of why I just have disillusionment with like Goodfeel as a developer, because they've shown us they can make good games. Wario Land Shake It was the best game they've ever made, if you ask me, and one of the best Wario games ever made. Woolly World is the other game that showed it, because they didn't do what they did with Kirby's Epic Yarn, and instead made a game with that was essentially what Yoshi's Story should have been. Because it's got great platforming mechanics. It's got the mechanics from Yoshi's Story without, having to eat the fruits to end the level. But it's done well and done right. It's got great level design. It's cute. The woolly art style for the characters in the levels really suit it better than some of the different crafting art styles they've done, like Crafted World. Being able to get all these different, collect all these different yarns to make goofy looking Yoshis was kind of a fun way to incentivize people to collect stuff. It had a great soundtrack, at least for Yoshi standards. This wasn't like Wario Land Shake It level good soundtrack, but it was still pretty good. Honestly, I don't even have much in terms of nitpicks for this game. Like, this is the most fun I've ever had in this franchise, and it stands up to, like, even the majority of the 2D Mario games. S tier. And this is also why, like, I have to start shaming Goodfield now, because they went downhill from here. Crafted World. Pretty similar to Woolly World, but worse. The level design wasn't as clever. The visual style, the fact that a lot of enemies and stage elements were crafts, which Yoshi himself was not, really had an odd juxtaposition and made the world feel kind of lifeless, if that makes sense, compared to Woolly World. And now they do use the crafts in some interesting gimmicky ways in some of the stages, keyword some, and I have to give them credit for that. But a lot of the level design is just like a step down from Woolly World, because like Woolly World wasn't the most challenging games ever, but it had challenge. Crafted World is just not for the most part. Like, most of the challenges comes in the form of the post game, and even then there's like only a handful of them. Also, the music is a definite step down. A lot of the tracks are kind of dull, and it kind of uses the same theme over and over again. Like, technically, it does look better than Woolly World from a technical sense. And that's just probably because it's running on a better engine on better hardware, but I don't know. Like, the game is fine. It's really a disappointment compared to Woolly World was, and honestly could be even New Island as well. So I'm going to say a B tier for that one. It's definitely worth playing, especially in co-op. Like, honestly, I did a replay of that. When I did do a replay of this game, it wasn't co-op, and I did have more fun playing that in co-op than I did in single player, which is not something I usually say. So if you got somebody to play with this, you probably have a better time. Like, it's fine in single player, it's kind of like playing Super Mario Brothers Wii in co-op. It's just the extra craziness elements do add a bit more to it. Anyways, for our Switch 2 Yoshi game, and the game that I'm really hoping this is not the only Yoshi game we get this generation, like, is Yoshi's in the Mysterious Book. Released within the first year, although it is 2026, it has not been a year since the Switch 1 has been out yet, though it is pretty close. We had to wait 6 years between this and Crafted World, but Crafted World at least came out within the second or third year of the Switch's lifespan. But the wait between that and Woolly World wasn't as long, if I recall. So I have to say I'm a bit disappointed with this one. Not in the same way as I was with Crafted World, mind you. The problem with this game is it's a cozy game. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush, it's a cozy game. And I normally don't care for cozy games. I do make some exceptions, like Pokemon Minecraft was decent for what it was. I know, I played through Stardew Valley. Though I mostly like playing that one with friends. And, you know, I did have my time in Animal Crossing New Horizons, but for the most part, I just don't like cozy games. Now, this is different from your average cozy game because it is still a 2D platformer, and it does keep the Yoshi mechanics of ground pounds, eating for eggs, throwing eggs, etc. Though now, it has the added element of being able to, the majority of the creatures being able to ride Yoshi, which can sometimes change how the game plays. Like, some of them will turn into gliders, essentially, and others will allow you to move through water. So, you may be asking, well, you're just describing a 2D platformer. Well, here's the thing. They do something similar to Kirby's Epic Yarn, to which you can't die. And while Kirby's Epic Yarn will punish you a bit for taking damage or dying by making you lose gems, in which case you can still finish the stage, but you'll have a lower rank. This one, the only punishment you get is just losing a little bit of time. And by that I mean a few seconds. If you fall in a pit, that's the only way you can actually die. Well, no, there's two ways you can die. One of them is falling in the pit. And the other is by fail. Well, you don't even really die. There are some few stages that have fail states in them, whereas if you don't complete the objective, you have to start the stage over. The one exception to this is there's a level in, I believe, Chapter 4 or Chapter 5, where the game turns into a stealth section, and I kid you not, because you get stalked by this creature that can insta-kill you. And if it insta-kills you, you don't lose a couple of seconds, you have to start the stage completely over. So, all of a sudden, it's not a cozy game. But that's the only stage it does that. And after that, it goes right back to being a cozy game. It's really a weird situation. But, now, my bitches about it being a cozy game aside, the game is very creative and unique. I don't think there's ever been a platformer like this, or it's been a cozy game in this way. Because what you do is you're there to study creatures, and when they say this game is about discovery, they're not kidding. Because each chapter has... There's 6 main chapters, and each chapter has 6 creatures that need to be researched, although a few of them have alternative varieties to them, to where you have to go through in the beginning to find a different objective to complete the exits properly. But for the most part, it's 6 stages with 6 creatures. And then once you beat the main game, the post-game starts, which asks 4 more chapters, each with 6 creatures each. And once you beat the 10th chapter, you get the actual ending. So, you know, once you beat chapter 6, keep playing. And even then, that means there's like a total of 60 unique stages, because each creature has its own stage. It's not like you're playing through the same stages with a different creature. So there is a decent amount of content to this. Yeah, and anyways, once you get the second ending, there are 2 more chapters, though these are a bit different. One of them is... the first one is about studying several creatures at once, and it's pretty much just a different variety type of objectives you have to do. And the second one is challenges. I didn't really play through either of these because, like, I was kind of burnt out of the game by then. And that's another issue I have with this game. Like, it gets boring after a while. So you're best played this in maybe 2-hour bursts, if even that. There are some stages that are actually fun and interesting, but a lot of them it's just like, okay, I'm licking this creature again to test it this way, or I'm carrying it this way to test it to see if it'll do that. And, you know, it does get repetitive. Because there's only so many different ways you can test a creature's reaction. It's just, the game is, if it sounds like I'm shitting on this game, I kind of am and am not at the same time. Because, again, creativity is important. Uniqueness is important. That's not to say that games that are formulaic can't be good, because there's quite a lot of good formulaic games. But, you know, just because something is unique doesn't mean it's necessarily good, as Topsy-Turvy will show. But this game does find a balance. It's at least... I would say it's at least good. You know, whether it's $60, $70 good is a different story, because I have to admit, again, this game was not for me. It's not meant for me. This game is a cozy game. And I know a lot of people that will like that. And again, it's not that I dislike this game, because I did get some enjoyment out of it. It's just really hard to rank this one because it's not my thing. It also doesn't help this game came out like after we just got 2 other cozy games from Nintendo, that being Tomodachi, which is, you know, not The Sims before it, and then before that it was Pokemon, not Minecraft. Now granted, those were very different cozy games than mysterious book, but that doesn't change the fact that we got three cozy games in a row. I'm gonna say it's a B tier between Crafted and Safari. And yeah, you know, it's creativity. I'll put it at the top. And I am do admit I'm being generous to it. But again, it's really hard to rate something when I enjoy it, but it's also not for me to really enjoy it at its fullest extent. And I know, like, it's been getting high Metacritic, but, you know, being the fact that it's a cozy game, yeah, you know those 10 out of 10 mixtape games journalists would love the shit out of this game. I'm surprised it honestly wasn't higher. But anyways, I do hope, even though I will admit the game is not for me, and I'm a bit disappointed that this may be the only Yoshi game we get for this whole generation, I'm not going to be like one of those guys that's going to shit on it because it's not Yoshi's Island 4. And I'm hoping the fact that this is a different kind of Yoshi game and it came out at the very beginning of the generation, that maybe we will see Yoshi's Island 4 sometime in the future. Either way, I think if this is the kind of game Goodfield wants to make, then I think it may be time for Nintendo to either part ways with them or have them make on original IP instead of making Yoshi games or Mario spin-offs, because yeah, it's fine as a one-time thing, but this is not how I want Yoshi games going forward. But hopefully, again, we get like something a bit more towards what people want from sometime in this generation. Because again, it's not a bad game, it's just not one most people wanted. Especially coming off of Crafted and Woolly World. But yeah, that's the Yoshi games. Hopefully the next game we get will be something that I can rave about. Something that will stand up to Woolly World, or at least Yoshi's Island, but we'll see.